beautiful friends. It's Amanda here, and today I'm doing an updated brush favorites video. Even though it's been a while since I've done a video dedicated to my favorite brushes, I do think that some of these are still going to be the same as what you saw in the last video. But I know for a fact I have a lot of new favorites added to my collection over the past, I'd say, year or two. So I felt like it was a great time to share some of my favorite brushes. I'm going to tell you specifically my personal favorite brands and styles of brushes, but I'm also going to tell you why so that if you don't have access to some of these brands, maybe the specific brushes that I'm showing you are not in your budget or just out of reach for whatever reason, then hopefully having the reason why I like certain brushes will help you make a really well-informed decision if you're shopping elsewhere, maybe with a brand or a store that I don't have access to, especially for my international friends. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of something for everybody in this video. Maybe you already have some of these brushes in your collection and you weren't sure how to use them, weren't comfortable using them, maybe you forgot about them in the back of your vanity drawer somewhere. Maybe this video can inspire you to rediscover your love for some brushes that you already have. We're going to talk about a couple of other tools as well because I do have some favorite makeup application tools that aren't brushes. So I'm going to add those in at the end too. So let's get to the fun part and let's start with the face brushes first. We're going to start first with foundation brushes. I have four favorites here, two of which are shaped very similarly. They are pretty different budget-wise though. These are both synthetic bristle brushes. The Real Techniques Instapop face brush has a more angled cut, a steeper angle to that slanted bristle. And the Real Techniques one is also not quite as dense and solid feeling. I really like both of these. I usually keep the Real Techniques one in my travel makeup brush, which is why it's so dirty. Sorry about that. And then the BK 101 is definitely my go-to. However, I do like this flat kabuki. It's the Sigma F80 and the more rounded bristles of the Huda base brush. I can use all of these pretty interchangeably, but I will say that if I had to choose just one, it would be this BK Beauty 101 brush. It just fits the contours of my face so well. It blends everything really flawlessly and quickly. I don't get brush streak marks, and it's just super fast. As you can see here, I'm showing you this action in real time because this just works. I feel like it does the work for me, and I love a lazy girl makeup moment. So if I had to choose just one, it would be this BK 101 brush, but I do use the others quite a bit. The Sigma F80 is the one I'm going to use on the other side. I'm just trying to demonstrate as many as I can, and I have really recently used the Huda face brush in my Easy Blur review that I posted about a week ago. So you can see that one in action in my recent foundation wear test and review. I wanted to show you this Sigma F80 in action. This is a real OG of my collection, and it has stood the test of time. This is my original brush that I've had for many, many years, and it's just a classic for a reason. I really prefer the flat top kabuki when I'm going for more coverage, but this one's definitely a classic for a reason, and I keep it constantly on top of my vanity, so I think that really says something. Next, my favorite concealer brush. I only have one to show you because I am either using this Singe FO2 for my concealer or I'm blending it in with my finger or maybe a dampened sponge, but this is the only concealer brush that I use. I don't have an alternative one to show you because this is the only one I need. I love the density of the bristles, also synthetic bristles. I love the way that it blends really effortlessly, but it keeps all of the coverage that I'm looking for. I just cannot sing the praises of this brush enough. You're going to see a lot of Singe Beauty brushes in my favorites video today. I think they do some truly unique shapes that just click with me, but this is my number one Singe Beauty brush. If I was only going to be allowed to own one brush from the brand, which thankfully that's not the case because I love a lot of their brushes, but this is the one. This is the ultimate concealer brush for me. And I have several of these so that I never am without a clean one. I really think that says a lot. I am going to show you an alternative, and this is another one that I keep in my travel makeup bag. So, this is the e.l.f. Complexion Duo. This doesn't have the density of that Singe Beauty brush, but this little complexion duo is such a workhorse type of brush for me. It is another one that I've had for a very, very long time, many years. It's held up well to washes and traveling. And for such an affordable option, I just think that this is a great one for me to include in this video because I think that a lot of folks could get a lot of use out of this. And this is a big bang for your buck type of product. As you can see here, it does take a little bit more work to get that coverage and get everything smoothed out versus the Singe Beauty brush, but it does the job and it travels well. So that's really what I'm looking for. Next are my two favorite setting brushes. The first is really an OG classic. This is the Real Techniques setting brush. This also works well as a highlighter brush, but I pretty much exclusively use mine for setting. It just fits really nicely under the eye. It picks up a lot of product. This is another one of those OG stands the test of time type of brushes. I've had this for ages. I think actually I have multiples of this setting brush as well. So this is just a classic for a reason. You really can't go wrong. But I have started using this Singe F04. This one's slightly larger and it has more of a paddle shape versus the Real Techniques one. So this I feel like can build up a little bit more of that powder coverage for me. So basically, if I want more coverage or more mattifying from my setting powder, then I use the Singe option. And if I'm looking for something a little bit lighter, softer, more satiny, then I'll go for the Real Techniques setting brush. We are going to move away from complexion brushes just for a minute here because I need to do my brows. And this ColourPop brow brush has become a favorite for me. I really like the angle of the bristles. Something about it just works for me. I didn't really realize what I was missing with that straight bristle brow brush. Say that 5 times fast. Until I started using this angled one, and something about it just works so well for me. I have very unruly brows, so I have to do some precision brow shaping when my brow gel is setting. And this is just the perfect thing. It's only a couple bucks. It's just become a staple for me. Now let's talk about some brushes that I don't use as often, but I feel like I would really be remiss not to mention them. And that's these two different options. They're both drugstore options that I use anytime I'm using a cream bronzer or very rarely a cream contour type of product. 99.9% of the time, though, it's going to be a cream bronzer. And the Milani F22 is more of a round shape. It's a bit more dense and angular in the bristles. So when I'm looking for a very precise application, then this Milani F220 brush is really the one that's going to work best for me. The Real Techniques medium sculpting brush, the next one that I'm going to show you, is a bit fluffier. It has more soft, rounded edges. So when I'm looking for a softer, more diffused look, then the Real Techniques medium sculpting brush is the better option. And if I'm looking for something a little bit more intense, a little bit more sculptural, then I find myself reaching for the Milani option. Our next category is brushes that I use for cream or liquid blush. Also, kind of a bonus, these are the brushes that I will use for Super Shock blushes as well. Not Super Shock highlighters, but Super Shock blush or bronzer. These are the brushes I'm reaching for. These two stippling brushes are very, very similar. I would say the texture of the bristles is very similar. The ColourPop stippling brush is a bit larger in diameter. The e.l.f. one is a little bit better for like precision, I suppose, but I believe that this e.l.f. small stippling brush isn't available anymore. I just searched for it and it looks like it's probably discontinued. So I guess ultimately the ColourPop one is the one I recommend anyway. But you will see me using these interchangeably in my videos. So I think it would just be kind of weird not to mention this e.l.f. one. And hey, like I said, even if you can't go out and buy all of these brushes, you might have this brush sitting in your drawer somewhere. So this is your sign to go find it because it's a great little brush. Now we're going to talk about powder brushes. I have three different sizes here, and I use these pretty interchangeably as well. The main difference for me is just the size, but if I'm doing an all over powder like I would be with these powder brushes, then I really just love this Fantasy Cosmetica one because it's so gigantic that it takes basically 2 seconds to powder my entire face. Ironically, the smallest of my powder brushes is the ColourPop large powder brush. The Real Techniques one is sort of medium, that's the Mama Bear, and then the Fantasy Cosmetica one is the largest. I use these interchangeably. I like all of them, so whichever one suits you, I like them all the same. Now, let's talk about bronzer brushes. I have, again, two very different styles here, similar to my cream bronzer brush preferences. I have these two more precise angled brushes that I like for a more sculpted and just more precision application. And then these two are very, very similar shapes. The ColourPop Full Fan Brush and the MAC 140S are these big, flat, fan-shaped brushes, and these are for an all-over bronzed look, a quick sort of slap-on, sun-kissed type of look. I started using this Singe F06 for bronzer. Originally, I think I used it for maybe blush. I don't know. But once I started using it for bronzer, I fell in love with it. Whereas before, I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. But this is sort of my go-to for just a little bit of a bronzer. But sometimes you need to just bronze your whole cheek, bronze your whole forehead, just really go for it, a more intense all over sunshine type of look. And that's where these fan-shaped brushes really can thrive. When it comes to powder blush application, these are the two that I have used the most often. I have recently been using a third brush for powder blush application, but it hasn't been in my repertoire for that long, so it's not quite a favorites video worthy choice yet. But this little mini Eco Tools powder brush has been basically my go-to blush brush forever. However, if I'm looking for a more targeted application or maybe just a more sparse blush application, which I know it's crazy for me to say that because I'm usually super blushed, but this Luxie tapered brush gives me a little bit more control over placement. Now for highlighters, I have two different brushes that do two very different functions, and these are legitimately the only highlighter brushes that I use. So for powder highlighter, I am always using this Refer 18 brush. It is super tapered, super soft. It just gives me a glowy diffused look, which I love. And then if I'm going to be using a Super Shock highlighter, then I'm reaching for my ColourPop small fluff brush. This has the right density and the right texture to really pick up that Super Shock highlight texture. I have tested thousands of brushes over my years as a makeup lover, and some of these really just stick with me. And the ColourPop blending brush, as you can see, I have several. I keep all of these on my vanity because, again, I always need to have at least one clean one. This is my number one eyeshadow brush. If I could only have one eyeshadow brush for the rest of my life, easily, I wouldn't even have to think about it. I would choose this one. Now, I'm not actually applying my eyeshadow for this video. I am just going to demonstrate how I use this, but I love this brush because of its versatility for the crease, for lid color, for under eye. Everything is perfect. I love it. Now for my favorite fluffy blending brushes, I have a couple of different sizes here. These are all doing the same function. I just choose the larger ones for a more blown out look. So the Singe EO3, Fantasy Cosmetica EO5 are both going to be those big blown out blend type of brushes. And then for something that is a little bit more medium sized, this Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush works great in the crease, believe it or not. And then for a more detailed blend, if I'm going for like a sultry, smoky look on the lid, then I'll choose one of these two smaller blending brushes. Now, for flat packing brushes, I have two different styles, once again, that I choose depending on what function I want. So if I want to build up color and blend as I go, then I'm choosing the EO1 or the shading brush. And if I want to really pack color on or go for a more smudgy type of look, then I will choose something with a really stiff bristle like this EO3 or the smudge brush. And I also find that these really stiff flat brushes are great for things like loose pigments, foiled shadows, something that really needs to be pressed onto the lid. I like these really stiff flat brushes. For detail brushes, I definitely have a few favorites here. These two different pencil brushes are similar in shape. The MAC one is a little bit more flexible. The ColourPop small pencil brush is more stiff, so it's great for a smudgy liner look. And then these two really small, again, super stiff, flat brushes are great for detail work, particularly around the inner corner and that lower lash line. That's where I tend to use them a lot. And last, but certainly not least, my favorite eyelash curler is this Tarte one. I got it in a set. I had one for a really long time. I ended up breaking it, bought a different one, and hated it so much that I went back and repurchased this Tarte one. I just love the spring. I love how comfortable it is. It's so easy to use. So my lash essentials are this Tarte lash curler and the Real Techniques separator. That's it for my favorite brushes and tools. You can see me using these across all of my videos all the time. But if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask those down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer, and I know that others in the community are often really helpful with questions too, so I appreciate that. I hope that this video was fun, helpful, informative, or at least enjoyable to watch while you hang out and do your chores. Or maybe you applied your own makeup, or maybe you're just hanging out, having some snacks. That sounds good too. I would love to hear about your favorite brushes and tools. Make sure you leave all of your recommendations and all of your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Girl, you're not a brush. No, I don't know. I don't know if any of that was useful. See ya. Someone's home. I can hear them downstairs. A little Small leaf girly earrings. It's time. I don't care. I know that it's technically not fall yet. I know that it's technically over 90 degrees here still. It was like 1,000,000,000% humidity last night when we went to walk Maggie, and I'm ignoring that. I don't choose to accept that into my reality, okay? It's fall in here. That's what counts. Kind of. The casual, sweaty cheek of my dreams. It's all blush, no highlighter. Love that for me. Where was I? I got distracted. Gray, green, and silver unmatched combo. Jesse. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. I'm really thirsty. I'm gonna go drink some water. And I'm going on a lunch date later, so that's why I look so cute so early in the morning. Usually it takes me a while. Not gonna lie. Can you hear my jingly earrings? Was that weird? Alright. I've been doing a lot of thumbs up lately. I took a hard turn into just full mom mode. They love you. Anyway, thanks for watching. Love your face so much. I'll see you soon. Bye.